Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of To The Point with me, Frank Pereira. On the show this week, we have a very special guest with us, eminent jurist, a person who's also won the Padma Vibhushan and a former Attorney General of India, Mr. Soli Sorabjee. Welcome to the show, sir. Mr. Sorabjee, a lot has been happening as far as the judiciary is concerned over the last 1 month or so. Matters reached a boiling point when Justice Markanday Katchu made those allegations about a High Court judge. Since then, the government too has taken a step forward, brought in this new bill, the Judicial Accountability Bill. What's your take on this bill?
Well, I think it's more or less agreed at all hands. The present collegium system has not worked satisfactorily.
Okay.
The genesis of the collegium system was to prevent Sarkari judges from being appointed. What was the reason? Because 3 judges who gave judgments which are not palatable to government in Keshwana Bharti case were superseded. Thereafter, Kumara Mangalam started the theory of committed judiciary. So that was the genesis of the collegium system. Well intended, but experience shows it has not worked satisfactorily for various reasons.
And what are these reasons? What would you pinpoint as the main reason?
The one main reason of the collegium system, the main defect was, the inherent defect, that only judges appointed themselves. There must be other inputs. The executive was completely left out, except in a case where the executive has some information which the collegium did not have about the background of the judge or about his activities, which would make him unsuitable. But then if the collegium reiterated the recommendation, the government was bound to accept it. Now that one found is not correct. There should be more inputs, apart from the executive, must be inputs from the bar, civil society. So this bill really aims to see that judges who are appointed fulfill the main aim, the independent judges, apart from being able, independent and people with integrity. Now we have to, this bill will succeed or when it becomes law. It's not even ratified by the states, but depend upon the members who work it. But it's a step in the right direction. And Justice Katchu's allegations, he makes all sorts of things that won't take it seriously at all.
So they're not taken seriously at all, you're saying?
I don't take it seriously, so why did he not object?
Well, exactly, that brings me to this point. Why didn't he object earlier? Why was this raised now, at this time? Many people have questioned the timing of this particular allegation that he's made.
He says that Diversionary Act is not at all. He says when a member of the judiciary I couldn't do it. Okay, assuming that's so. When you demoted officer as judge, why didn't you point us out? So forget him. Fact of the matter is, it's more or less universally accepted the collegium system hasn't proved satisfactory. This is an improvement on the sense that here you have, improvement in the sense you have other voices, other inputs. But here again, there must be primacy of the judiciary. In other words, the majority must see judiciary. Why? Not because the judges are kings, they are not divine, but they know the work, they've seen the judgments of the person who is about to be elevated to the Supreme Court. They know the people who appear before them. They are in a better position to judge the ability, the merit of that person.
Going by that argument, shouldn't the collegium system then have worked completely because all of them were judges?
No, exactly, didn't work. Should have worked, but did not work. Should is all right, but did not work. Should and ought doesn't correspond to reality.
Okay. Let's talk about the Judicial Accountability Commission now and the composition of the
Not Accountability Commission, sorry, Appointment Commission.
Appointment Commission,
Accountability entirely
Appointment Commission, I beg your pardon. Let's talk about the composition now. So the Chief Justice of India is going to head it.
1, 2, 3, there are 3 judges.
Yes, there are 2 other judges. There's going to be the Law Minister as well.
Correct.
And 2 prominent personalities. Now, who are these 2 prominent personalities and how do we choose these 2 prominent personalities?
These eminent persons will be decided by the Chief Justice in consultation, I think, with the
Prime Minister, with the leader of the opposition.
That's right.
Yes. And now, who's to decide what kind of a role is this person really going to play and what background does this eminent personality come from?
When they select Mr. A as a person, what they call a eminent, or it should be really distinguished jurist, or what they call eminent jurist. That will depend. Select a person who has some background, who has some knowledge of the working of the system, of the judgments of the various things. So why do you expect that this person won't be a competent person? Why do you start with that assumption by the distrust? After all, he's being appointed in consultation
Yes.
with three authorities.
Yes.
So see how it works. Don't start with the negative assumption. I don't understand
Okay.
this.
We're not going to start with a negative assumption, but can we positively say that this system is going to be foolproof then?
No system may be foolproof. In this country, perfection is not the attribute of humanity.
Yes.
No system may be foolproof. It will be an improvement.
Okay. It'll be an improvement. Do we see any problems cropping up down the line as we move forward? And what kind of corrective measures do you see the government or the judiciary taking as far as this is concerned?
The question is, divide your question.
Okay.
What problems arise, experience will show.
Yes.
If they arise, then of course there will be a better improvement in the sense the composition of the commission may be changed, may be enlarged. You see, the trouble is, once one fact is accepted by everyone, including the loquacious Kaju, that the collegium system hasn't worked.
Okay.
Question is, what do you replace it with? Judicial, this commission, appointments commission.
Appointments commission,
But
yes.
there I am saying, even there, the judiciary must have an edge. As far as I can see, that is there. So it is not a, people say independence of judiciary wrote it. Arre, kaisa he wrote kar diya? Have they taken away judicial review? Idea is this is an effort to see judges are appointed who are better than those appointed by the collegium in the sense ability, experience, integrity, and also if this commission will be a full-time commission, mind you. It has its own staff. It is important.
Yes.
So it will go through it. You can't decide this over a cup of coffee or tea. So to that extent, I think it's an experiment. And it's well worth trying. I don't see it as such a threat to the independence of the judiciary when the whole effort is to have more able and more competent judges.
Okay. At this juncture now, I'm going to quote something that the Chief Justice of India, in fact, has come out and said. Now, he has defended the existing collegium system. He has said, and I quote, "If the collegium has failed, then everybody has failed. All judges today were appointed by the collegium." What do you have to say about that?
That's a statement, rhetorical statement, okay.
Okay.
What am I to say? He's frank.
Are you
He's very frank.
So are you saying the collegium system then has not brought out any good judges?
It can't be. It's a general statement. Of course, many of the judges who are here are top class. They came because of the collegium system. I'm not saying some are also, dubious judges. The idea is we have to be careful. Look, even if an able lawyer or an able judge is not appointed, it's unfortunate.
Yes.
But if anyone was a question mark, a questionable person is appointed, that is disastrous. Do you follow what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So in this way, any human system, it's administered by human beings. So it can't be perfect, as you seem to think we are living in an imperfect world. So we have to see how it goes. Give it a chance, give it a fair trial. Don't condemn it before it started.
Do you believe that this new system will have far more transparency than the old system?
Yes, in the sense that there will be, collegium will record reasons. Collegium will be consisting not only of the club of judges, but of others. To that extent, it will be transparent. But I don't think transparency should go to the extent of saying why a particular judge was not accepted. Because what happens to the judge of the High Court? They can think about you don't know to go before this judge. He's not accepted. So we must keep a sense of balance. Reasons must be recorded by all members of the collegium or the commission.
Yes.
If necessary, Supreme Court in a given case can examine the reasons. But I don't think the reasons should be made public. Because after all, it really affects the reputation of the judge. The judge may not have been appointed not because of lack of integrity, but because of other reasons. Sometimes the regional factors, other factors. So making that public, I think, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay, you're not in favor of that. Let's talk about what some of the other very eminent jurists have come out and said about this particular topic. They've said, what this is going to do, it's going to make an already powerful executive even more powerful, and the judiciary is just going to be, not at all powerful anymore. What do you have to say about that?
There are three people there. You're only doubting the two people who will be appointed. You think they are the people who will go against the judiciary? You'll appoint people who have independence of the judiciary in their heart. So what's all this? I think it's just all sound and fury signifying nothing. How powerful? 1, 2, 3, kaun hai? Judges hai. Other two are people who will appoint in consultation and certainly appoint people who also will have the independence of the judiciary at heart. So why do you assume what's all this is all for public consumption?
Okay. There have been several allegations made against several top judges across the country. Now, many of these allegations are yet to be proven. Some of them have already been proven. Now, what do people related with these particular cases? Do they have a chance of a review now going forward, or what is it as far as they are concerned?
I haven't followed the question. Take a specific case. What review of what?
Say for instance, let's talk about Justice Markandeya Karju and his allegation against the High Court judge, the Madras High Court judge.
Now,
he has presided over several cases. He has presided over several cases, and it is proven that he's a corrupt person. Now, what happens to all those cases? Do they have a chance of a review?
No question about it. You can't reopen things which years have passed. What happens to the parties who in the case? There's no such thing. No, that's not possible.
Okay.
That's not even practical.
Okay. So, going forward, how do you see this matter going forward? Now, it's been sent to the states. Do you see it becoming a complete law?
I think states may ratify it. I don't know whether any states refuse the requisite number is not available. But if the states ratify it, and if both houses are passed, I think we should give sufficient credence to the wisdom of the people who have passed it. Their intention is not to destroy the independence of the judiciary. I won't attribute that intention. Apart from that, the very composition of the commission is a safeguard against this. Unless you doubt the two people who may be appointed, then you don't start with a doubt. And those two people surely are not appointed by the president or by the chief justice alone, by three people. And I take it the people who appoint the eminent persons, as they are called, will see to it their background, their knowledge, their integrity, and their concern for the judiciary.
All right. On that note, we'll slip into a short break now, but we'll continue talking to Mr. Soli Sorabjee on the other side. We'll talk about several other important issues. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television in conversation with the eminent jurist, Mr. Soli Sorabjee. Mr. Sorabjee, let's talk about the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha now. That issue also has seen a heated debate both in Parliament and outside Parliament as well. This issue was also taken up by the Supreme Court, and a bench headed by the Chief Justice of India has asked the government really to find a fix as soon as possible. Is it right for the Supreme Court to interfere in such matters?
It's not interference, because today as the law stands, and I agree with the opinion of the Attorney General, Congress cannot be leader of opposition because they don't fulfill the required criteria. That's also the opinion of Mr. Kashyap, who is also a constitutional expert.
Yes.
Now what the court realizes, the importance of a leader of opposition in several other matters, where the consent is required or where the consultation of leader of opposition. So it is suggested it's open to the government to change the rule in such a way that there is some leader of opposition. That's the whole idea. But it has happened before. What has happened in other cases? There was no leader of opposition, many ministries. But the Supreme Court is not interference, it's a hope expressed. They do that in the larger interest, that the leader of opposition is also there, because in the absence of a leader of opposition, there are so many other statutory posts which may not be difficult to have filled up because absence of leader of opposition. Amend the thing, make leader of the largest party whatever it is, but it's not interference by the Supreme Court. It's a desire by the Supreme Court to solve this problem.
Okay. In which direction do you see this issue heading going forward? Because the BJP, the government at the centre, has been quite adamant as far as this issue is concerned. They are going by the law, they are going by the book. They are saying, the Congress, they have not won enough seats to get the position. So what do you see going forward?
That's precisely the point. Don't go completely by the book, completely by the law. Go by the larger interest of seeing that there is a leader of opposition. for the more effective working of parliamentary democracy.
Indeed, that brings me to my next question. Now, going by what you just said, can a real democracy work without, a leader of the opposition, without an opposition voice?
Was the democracy dead when there was no leader of opposition in the previous governments? You know cases where then what happened there? Democracy died. So it's all very well. Idea being, it can be, well, you may say it is a deficiency if there is no leader of opposition. But then as the president stands, Maulankar's decision, there are major other decisions, you amend the law and do it. I think you should, because you require, call him leader of opposition or leader of the largest party, but someone to be there in a democracy to give it real effective meaning.
But who's going to decide on this matter now? Is the government going to say, okay, fine, we're going to allow someone from the opposition camp to be
I'm not an astrologer, I don't know what the government will decide.
Okay.
Even when it decides, to come and ask me again.
Sure. We'll definitely do that. But let's stick to this topic. And one final question as far as this particular topic is concerned. The Supreme Court has not said it in as many words, but has hinted for the government to find a fix within the next 2 weeks. Now, if that does not happen, do you see the Supreme Court taking up the matter again?
Hypothetical at this stage, I won't answer. Let's see what happens. If this happens, will the Supreme Court do that? I don't answer hypothetical questions.
Okay, let's talk about the Supreme Court's judgment as far as the ministers are concerned. Of course, we saw that coming out this week itself. We saw the Supreme Court. They didn't go about and give a direct verdict as far as this case is concerned. In the past, we've seen that many of the courts, the High Courts and the Supreme Courts, have been decisive as far as political decisions are concerned. This time around, not so decisive. Why?
No, this was in a particular case. You can have a decision. Suppose a person is proved to be an insolvent, or suppose has incurred disqualification which makes him a member of parliament and a minister. It's a different case. Here the Supreme Court didn't itself say they don't appoint them. They didn't want to see this, they wanted to keep the balance, but they made observations and depended on the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister to see that tainted persons are not appointed as ministers. These are observations of the Supreme Court, and I'm sure any Prime Minister or CM will give proper heed to it.
Yes, they will give proper heed to it, and it's not very decisive. Again, I come back to the point. It's not very decisive. In the past, we've seen, if an MP has a criminal case against him, if he's convicted for more than 2 years, then he automatically loses his seat. Those decisions were very decisive, whereas this isn't as decisive.
But that is disrespect to a particular person and particular facts. You can't give a general decision of this nature. And if they've done it, you're the first one to say, look, court is interfering. You're the first person to say that. So the court has done, it's a very pragmatic thing. They've expressed their views, and I'm sure the authorities concerned will take into account the observations of the court.
Let's take a look now, finally, of course, before we let you go, Mr. Sorabjee, about some of the larger issues. Over the last couple of years, we've seen that the faith or the common man's faith in the judiciary has diminished. And I'm sure that you would also agree with that fact. How do you see the judiciary reimposing that faith in the common man?
Today, when any commissioner of inquiry is to be appointed, the common man, the people will say, we want a judge.
Yes.
Sitting or retired. So that's your answer to whether faith has been eroded. Yes, to some effect, the image has been a little bit blurred, if I may say. That's mainly on account of the media also, highlighting small issues.
So
and
we are
making
also
them
to
into,
blame, you say?
Not blame, but there's a genuine impression. I'm not blaming you, but to say generally that the public has lost confidence in the judiciary is not correct, because I'm giving you an instance. Any commissioner of inquiry is to be appointed in a matter of national importance. The public will say, whom do they want? A minister? They will want a secretary? They say, we want a judge. So despite that, they still have faith in the impartiality and neutrality of a judge, and that is borne out by the fact that the judges held commissions of inquiry. If you suggest no commission of inquiry will be headed by some executive member, there will be a public outcry. What will they show? That still, despite the deficiencies, despite the defects of the judiciary, occasional lapses on part of some judges, the faith of the public is rightly there in the institution of the judiciary. And it should be so, whatever the media may say, whatever Justice Kaju may say.
And let's talk about some of the other core issues that have been dogging the judiciary for a long time now, as far as the entire country is concerned. Several cases continue to remain pending, right from the lower courts to the Supreme Court. This issue has been, several people have tried to address this issue, several judges have tried to address this issue, several law ministers have tried to address this issue, but failed. When is this issue really going to be resolved? What needs to be done to ensure that, we see some of these cases being fast-tracked?
No, there are a number of causes for this. Sometimes what happens in the trial court, the public prosecutors are not present. Sometimes the judges don't take it seriously. This is a topic by itself. I can't give an answer there.
Yes.
But I tell you one thing. It's horrible for a person to be behind bars because he can't afford bail for a period longer than the punishment he would receive upon conviction. That has to be received, and to my mind, this should be the topmost priority of the government. Because this is absolutely, horrific. The man is in jail. Suppose he says, sorry, plead guilty, 2 years punishment. But he's in jail for more than 2 years or 5 years.
Yes.
But a number of causes for which you require a separate discussion.
Yes, indeed. Maybe we'll have a discussion sometime in the future with Mr. Sorabjee on that particular topic. But before I let you go, one final question that has been on my mind is about the repealing and amending bill. We've seen 36 laws being repealed by this particular government. Some of the laws, of course, date back to 1897 and very obsolete laws.
So what's your problem with that?
No. My question is, how come these laws were not repealed earlier? Why is it that this government came and suddenly repealed these 36?
No. Arun Shori also had done that exercise.
Yes.
And suppose it was not done earlier.
That's it on this edition of To The Point. I'd like to thank my guest at this point in time, Mr. Soli Sorabjee. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the show and sharing your views on several of those topics. Thank you so much for watching as well. Stay tuned for much more on the other side of the shot.